Broadcasting from Hollywood, California. It's Grant's Rants, Hollywood Talk.
Teresa and Joe Giudice appear to be over. Trashy Nicki Minaj attacks Wendy Williams in the press. I give my take on Megan King Edmonds' cheating scandal, and LeeAnne Locken's best friend, Cynthia Smoot, joins the rants and takes us behind the scenes of the Real Housewives of Dallas. Let the ranting begin. I am joined via Skype by Cynthia Smoot, a publicist, a lifestyle and celebrity blogger, and appearing on this season's Real Housewives of Dallas. Welcome to the Rants.
Well, howdy from Texas.
It's nice to have you on. I like having my callers come in from Texas. You're, I think, my second one after Mama D.
Awesome. Well, that's a big act to follow.
Well, yeah. Oh, man. What an episode. For those who haven't heard, check it out, Mama D. Thank you for calling into the Rants. And we're going to have a traditional episode here, but stick around because we're going to go, kind of behind the scenes a little bit into LeeAnne Locken's wedding celebrations, plural, as it's my understanding, Cynthia, you were there.
I was there every step of the way.
So we're going to get there in a moment. But first, I want to get your thoughts, and I'm going to share mine on this Teresa and Joe one-on-one. It's been a minute, but I wanted to cover it because I was really kind of surprised by what I saw in this one-on-one unlocked interview. What were your initial impressions of this?
Well, I was sort of surprised and then not surprised. I was surprised initially that they were so distant and a little hostile towards each other. Mm-hmm. But then after I thought about it, I'm like, they really have not been together in 3+ years. So I guess that distance is sort of to be expected.
Right. I thought it was very honest and I guess compared to other people we've seen on reality TV, it wouldn't be considered as honest, but because they've put up such a front, especially her, for so long of being, supportive of him, and they don't show their cracks at all. This actually really showed, I believe, the realest we're ever going to get of how they really view one another and the situation that they're in. So I thought it was a fairly honest interview. Teresa continues to accuse Caroline Manzo of going to the feds, which I think is really ridiculous because even Joe said he knows who went to the feds. So, I don't know why they keep bringing Caroline into this. She mocked Teresa on Instagram this week, saying that she never heard the word beautifulist, of course.
Well, Teresa is a lot of words nobody's ever heard of. That's part of her charm.
Of course. So one could argue Caroline kind of predicted that a divorce would happen.
Can we talk about that prediction? Because when they played that back, I remembered it. But that's been years ago. So I was kind of like, wow, Caroline Manzo. That was kind of awesome.
Yeah. Caroline is smart. If we're talking about smarts too here, again, we're talking about someone who uses the word beautifulist and then Caroline. So, tree huggers don't come for me though. But,
well, yeah. I'm a Caroline fan. I feel like Caroline is the housewife I am most like because she's just kind of no nonsense. But her personality, I think, was not suited for that show. But I love her and I loved their spinoff. I think she and her family are fantastic. I just think she was not a fit for the Housewives.
See, I couldn't handle the spinoff. I covered it for AfterBuzz at the time. It was 8 episodes too long for me. I think it was a total of 8. I didn't enjoy it, but for
me, Greg Bennett is the true star of that show. I love him.
Oh, right. So what else happens at this? They mentioned that they're going to be filming Teresa going on a trip to Italy, and this is going to be really telling about the future of their relationship. I was really surprised. The thing that stuck out to me the most was that when she saw Joe at the detention center, she felt nothing for him, which, like you mentioned, time has passed, but it is strange for a wife to say that about her husband. I don't know. It doesn't seem very positive.
Well, I feel like their marriage is probably over, and right now they're probably trying to figure out how to just best co-parent their children, which are their children are still fairly young, and so having your father shipped halfway around the world has to be traumatizing for them. Not to mention, Teresa needs a continued storyline, and wow, is this a great one? So it's kind of a win for her in that sense. But I mean, I think for Teresa, she's clearly doing it for the money and for the storyline. I think the marriage is over. And I think at this point, whatever feelings she has for Joe are strictly around how can I, or how can she help facilitate a good relationship with Joe for her daughters.
Right. And here's the thing. I mean, I understand. How the hell are you going to maintain a marriage, with multiple countries and an ocean away? But it's all the cheating allegations and the hand holding and the jumping in men's arms and all the stuff that is just kind of too soon, I think, in my opinion, with there being all these kids involved. I mean, I think everyone needs to take a breath. This is clearly shaking their whole life, their marriage, and to the core. I mean, I think all this PDA is really unattractive, no matter who's doing it, man or woman in this situation. I think you're going to let it the situation breathe. Then you're going to go for the divorce and then go and have your fun. I don't understand all this. And I know it's going to play out this season on New Jersey, but it is disrespectful. And it's a turnoff even to her kids to see the mother jumping around with all these young men. That's my opinion.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. And I think, to your point, if they knew the marriage was over, then just get a divorce. And then your storyline can be how you're re-entering the dating world.
Right. I mean, we've gotten so many miles out of this just on Real Housewives alone, between her going away and then him being away, and he's still in the opening titles, which is strange. And and
some of it, to your point, may be that Teresa feels like, her storyline for so long has been how she had this amazing, strong marriage, and now she's kind of got to backpedal a little bit and figure out, I think she probably knew Joe was having tryst the whole time, but, staunchly refuted it. And now she's kind of, I think she's sort of caught up in it and doesn't know how to get out of it.
The truth always comes out, I mean, there's no hiding it, especially when you're on a reality show for now, 9, 10, 11 seasons? Come on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, well, I'm going to continue keeping an eye on it. I have not covered much of the whole Joe thing, the status of where he is and what he's doing, because it changes constantly. And I'm just kind of waiting for all of it to, move on and progress into the next phase. But I was interested in this unlocked one-on-one special. And I like that he wore orange, odd choice. But yeah, we'll see what happens next.
That was just so clearly for a paycheck. And it was obvious he was doing her a favor by doing the show. So it was sort of
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was nothing they couldn't just put in a People magazine article, I guess. But I still actually was really excited. I have some family in town. I've been behind in a lot of my shows. So that was the first thing I just reached for to watch when they left. I don't know why, but I think it kind of rose to the top for me as far as interest level goes. And it didn't totally disappoint. I mean, I'm interested, but in a way, I wonder if it kind of makes this upcoming season if it takes the power away from the new season, because, we're going to see a bunch of stuff play out from 10 months ago. So, we kind of know where they are. I don't know if her storyline is going to hold my attention, knowing what I know now.
I feel like people are not so much interested in what's going on with her and Joe. I think the interest is going to lie in, is there a boyfriend? Is she going to be outed? That to me is the interesting part, is what are they going to show? What are the other ladies going to say about it? They've already teased it in the trailer. So I think, Jersey never disappoints. It's always a lot of rollicking fun.
That's gotten a lot better, and I love that Jennifer Aiden for all the wrong reasons, and I love Margaret, so I'm looking forward to it. I, for a long time, did not think that Teresa had a boyfriend because she is so traditional Italian in her ways, and I know a lot of women like that from growing up on the East Coast, but after seeing all these pictures and seeing kind of, her behavior and her statements in this interview, I do believe that there's something going on, and I'm surprised in her.
Well, I mean, who knows why people do the things we do, but the great thing, Grant, is that we will all get to see it play out on the upcoming season.
There's a lot of Housewives on right now. In fact, this episode didn't mean to be all about Housewives, but it kind of just did, because that's what really is out there in the press. Honestly, there's really not that much going on, and I'm really surprised, but there's a lot of Housewives gossip.
Well, which is fine with me. I love it.
Perfect. I mean, you're stepping out of the world of Housewives to do this podcast, so it's perfect. But I want to actually switch gears. We'll throw in one topic that's a little more general because I saw this, and I have a lot of opinions here. Wendy Williams, she talked about Nicki Minaj's wedding this week, and so she finally got married, and, Wendy wasn't really salacious enough. She covered it, in my opinion. She mentioned that the husband, now Kenneth, he did time in jail, and he's a sex offender. He allegedly, Nicki's brother also is a sex offender, but Kenneth, this new husband, basically was in jail for about 10 years for manslaughter as well. So Wendy boiled it down to the new husband being both a killer and a sex offender. And of course, Nicki had a lot to say about this. She said, "It's not about doing your job. There are people who report the news, and there are people who do it with evil intent in their heart, viciousness. And I pray for you that and I know you're hurting, and I know you must be sick and humiliated." Now, I can only imagine she must have shot that statement out with a lot of viciousness herself. She said that on Queen Radio. I'm not a fan of Nicki Minaj. What do you think? Was Wendy out of line with this?
Well, I think that's the kind of, celebrity reporter that Wendy is. I mean, that's what she's known for, are her, opinionated rants and her kind of tongue-in-cheek jabs. I mean, that's part of her persona. So I don't think anything she said was surprising. I don't think it was overly mean either. I mean, it's kind of all true.
I mean, yeah, I mean, the court records prove it.
Yeah.
Of course, one could say, well, the man has done his time. He's paid his debt to society. That was the past. He's turned over a new leaf. And that's kind of what she's been arguing later in this statement that she made on her radio show. But, that's unfortunately, that's how people are painted these days. I mean, look at these Me Too guys. I mean, their names are being taken off buildings. They're not worried if these people gave a bunch of money to a foundation. It's like, unfortunately, you're defined by the crimes that you've committed. Unfortunately or fortunately, maybe it's a good thing because, you see who people really are. I don't know. This is a huge conversation.
Well, you know what I think is interesting? Have you watched the sort of reboot of True Stories?
I watched one about the Nexium cult.
So I used to love this series. I'm so happy that they brought it back. But one of the shows that they did recently was talking about women in the hip hop culture. And in the early days of hip hop, it was very much sort of a tribe. Women all supported each other because there were so few women in hip hop and rap. And then the media started sort of pitting them against each other and sort of, creating this queen culture where there could only be one woman at the top. And so everything else was a cat fight to bring that one down so you could get to the top. And they were talking about how, women unfortunately sort of fell into this media trap. And it's been very difficult to get out of. And they used Nicki Minaj as an example. And so I think that's just sort of the culture she comes from is, she's very, defensive. I'm on top. Everybody's trying to take me down. And so anybody who takes a shot at her, she's got to shoot back.
Exactly.
And so, maybe that's just a defense mechanism on her part. I mean, but listen, on the other hand, Nicki's points are true too. So it's kind of like hello pot meet kettle because Wendy has certainly had her fair share of scandal in the press lately as well.
Well, here's the thing with Nicki. I mean, she fell right face first into the trap, like you mentioned, of that clapback culture and all of that, and having to be at the top, which is what it is. I have my personal opinions about Nicki. I don't believe she has any talent. I don't believe she's a real rapper. She's a top 40 artist. A real rapper is someone like Lil' Kim. But that's another story for another day. But I have a real beef with her. But I think that she had an opportunity where she doesn't have to fall into that I'm number one spot. I heard a verse on a recent song that she put out. It's fairly new. And she was saying, for every feud that I get into, it's just more money in my bank account. So she's totally playing the game. And, it's one thing to defend yourself, and then it's another to play people. And I think it's kind of like she's out there looking for anyone to create an argument with. And, she's been doing it for a long time. It's not cute anymore.
It's a double-edged sword. It plays well to a certain audience, but then I think there's another part of the audience that's very tired of this negative culture. And like, we're just tired of the toxicity. And, it's icky after a while.
Mm-hmm. Well, Forever the Linguist, later in the statement, Nicki said, "Ho, how you doing, stupid?" So, I mean, we're not dealing with, the greatest minds here either. I really don't care for her. And, Wendy has said a lot of things, and I watched how she presented the story, and she presented it much like she does other topics, like, that are a little, polarizing. She also calls out, what's his face, R. Kelly, quite a bit, and just lays it out there the way she laid this out there. I mean, she just says it like it is. I mean,
Right.
Nikki's gonna expect this. The man has a public record. So, I don't know.
Well, in the words of the great Sheree Whitfield, who gonna check me, boo?
Different people have been asking me about this Megan King Edmonds thing. I can't believe, first of all, how much this story has taken over the last 2 weeks. For those who don't know, she was a former housewife on OC. Her husband earlier this year had an affair through text messages or exchanged photos or whatever. Now here we are at the end of this year. He's been seen with the nanny. There's a lot of allegations. Is he cheating on her with the nanny? Megan has her point of view that he's been denying this. Somewhere in the middle is the truth. But I can't believe someone who's not even a full-time housewife, who hasn't been a full-time housewife in a long time, is getting so much press. They're talking about this on every news outlet.
It shows that it's a slow news week.
Yeah. I mean, even The View is like, would you hire a sexy nanny to watch your kids? Like, who's going to say yes to that?
Well, that was my first thought is when I saw the photos of the nanny, they were, with the alleged affair. My first thought was, have women not learned the lesson about not hiring a hot nanny? Like, you're inviting trouble. If I was hiring a nanny, I would be looking for a grandmother with a wart on her nose. It would not be some 24-year-old hottie that's a size 2. Like, that's crazy to me.
I agree. Wouldn't you want to get someone maybe with like a nursing background or an older person that has, raised children? I don't know. I guess there's not enough of them in the market. I know a lot of people who do nannying, are in their 20s, younger. My cousin does it in Florida. But she's also a nursing student. So, I mean, I don't know.
You also need a lot of energy to keep up with small children. So,
Well, yeah.
probably better suited for that energy level than somebody who's over 60. But at the same time, I still would not be hiring a Playboy model to be my nanny.
Right, like a size 0 walking around. Like, yeah. Too much temptation for him. I mean, Jim, he's been married multiple times. He's got all these stray kids with all these women. Clearly he has a wandering eye.
Yes, how surprised can you really be when this is sort of his track record? So, listen, I'm sure he did love Megan. He probably still does love Megan. Has nothing to do with that. Unfortunately, if you marry a man who's a serial cheater, you can't be too surprised when he cheats on you.
And she's got 3 really small kids, and I believe one of them has a disability. I mean, it's really gross on his part, and I think now he's backpedaling because he released some type of statement that he wants to make things right with Megan or whatever. I mean, is it too little too late? I mean, you already look like an ass in front of everybody, ditching your wife like this, going to a hockey game with the nanny when she's sitting home with 3 kids. I mean, if the nanny isn't there, because the nanny's with him. So, what a mess.
I hope Megan just rakes him over the coals.
Yeah, she should get everything.
Yep.
The thing is, the nanny denied and he denied a sexual relationship, but we know that a cheatation doesn't need to be sexual. Maybe he did hold himself back sexually, but you can still engage in an emotional affair. It happens all the time.
Which I think is almost worse. I think if your husband goes to some convention and maybe has like a one-nighter with some random person never to be seen again, that maybe I could forgive and work through. But somebody who has been in your home that you are having an emotional relationship with, to me, I really think it's worse than just a random one-off sexual encounter.
Yeah. I mean, it's bad.
That's just me.
I can't believe, though, the amount of attention this story has gotten from E! News to The View, all over the place. And people are talking about this. And, of course, everyone's hoping this will open up a door for Megan to come back onto the show. I don't know either way. I mean, by the time they go back into production, she'll probably be finalizing her divorce. I don't know if it warrants all that. But,
I
Who
never
knows?
thought Megan was that great on the show. I was never a fan of hers. I was happy when she left. I think she needs to stay gone and focus on her children.
Right.
I'm fine with her coming back. She's on for Shannon's birthday party. That's fine. Sure. Once or twice a season, pop in for a party. But I don't think she needs to be coming back full time.
I was inspired because I walked by, they were cutting down some trees in my neighborhood, and they have a wood chipper out front, and they had all these branches and leaves, and I wanted to take a picture of it, make like a meme, but I don't have any time for it. But I wanted to put like all the couples' faces where the branches are, and then just show them going into this wood cut chipper, because OC Housewives is just a machine. Sometimes it's like multiple times too. Like look at someone like Vicky and Brooks, Vicky and Dawn. Like sometimes it's more than once that these couples go face first into this OC wood chipper. What do you make of that?
Yeah, well, it's extremely hard on a marriage. And, to your point, we have more divorces on this show than marriages at this point. So for new housewives coming on, something to be considered.
Yeah.
I think it's hard when you're putting everything out there. And, once it's on film, and then especially you have to relive it 6 months later when it's a fight, you have a fight with somebody, you've gotten over it. And then all of a sudden it's re-aired, rehashed, the Band-Aids ripped off that wound. I think especially in a marriage, it can be really difficult. And then, of course, all of Twitter has to have an opinion about it, which doesn't help.
Right. You can never really move on from anything because it's constantly being replayed. It's true. Coming up, Page 6 has casting recommendations for the Real Housewives of New York City. Interesting. And then later, Cynthia is taking us behind the scenes of Dallas. She's been there. She's got insight, even a little bit of how these shows are made. Stick with us. It's been hectic, so this time I sent myself a FabFitFun box. I've been sleeping and taking time to recover from long work days. Thank God for self-care. And this winter seasonal box of FabFitFun promotes just that. It was honestly a nice surprise to find this colorful box waiting on my doorstep after a long day. I was able to customize the box and opted for a few surprises. In the spirit of self-care, I immediately lit the Jonathan Adler scented candle, and then I took a steam shower using the Cuccio Calm and Clean Epsom Salt hand and body wash. The seasonal boxes come filled with 8 to 10 full-size beauty, fitness, home, and wellness products from some of your favorite brands, all for just $49.99. But it's more than just a box. Did you know listeners with a FabFitFun membership get access to on-demand videos over at FabFitFun TV and members-only flash sales? Enjoy this seasonal subscription box with full-size products. The box retails for over $49.99, but always has a value of $200. Support the podcast and start your Christmas shopping early, really, by using coupon code GrantsRants for $10 off your first box at FabFitFun.com. That's coupon code GrantsRants.
You're listening to Grant's Rants. Subscribe and spread the word. There are a lot more rants to come. Listen anytime on all major podcasting platforms. And now, back to the show.
And we're back on the podcast talking with Cynthia Smoot, joining me from Dallas. Welcome back.
Howdy, Grant.
Hey. How's it going down there? I know I saw the tornadoes and all these things happening. What's going on?
Yes, so last week we did have a tornado rip through Dallas. It's the first time in the 30 years that I've lived in the city that we've seen a tornado inside the city limits. So it was shocking. Fortunately, no loss of life, but a whole lot of property damage. Really about a block from LeeAnne Locken's house. So she was spared, thankfully. But it was, and it still is, quite the devastation. We're still in cleanup mode.
I watched all of her stories, all of her coverage of that, because I really wasn't seeing it anywhere else. And I mean, she was really boots on the ground, walking up to these neighbors' houses. And I mean, I could just hear it in her voice. She was really shook by that. Obviously, I mean, it almost seems fake, to see so much devastation like that. I mean, I assume they'll be cleaning up and repairing for a long time to come.
Well, the crazy thing with the tornado is that it picks up and lifts down and picks up. And so it's not like it's a straight path. So, it can clear 3 houses and then skip 2 and then land again. So it's just so random. And so it's so surreal to walk through these neighborhoods and you'll see 2 or 3 houses that have just been demolished or had their roofs ripped off. And then 2 or 3 houses right next to them that are perfectly fine. So it's just, It's very weird and random. And so you're so thankful for the people who were spared. And it's just heartbreaking for those who lost so much. Mm-hmm. Well, we joke that it happened on a Sunday night and half of Preston Hollow, the neighborhood that got hit, was at the Cowboy game. So therefore nobody was home.
Oh, yeah, no one's there.
So it was a blessing. Go Cowboys.
Wow. Well, I'm glad that everyone's okay. And I know it'll take a long time, but that's scary. I can't imagine. I've never been through anything like that. Just
never
some hurricanes.
Dallas, Grant. Never a dull moment.
Never. Wow. To make a little transition here. Tinsley, they're questioning now if she's out on the show, but they've been in production. She's, I'm sure, signed her contract. So she's obligated to continue to film, right?
Yes, 100%.
So they're like, oh, is she quitting because she abandoned a shoot? She blew off a shoot to go back with that Scott in Chicago, her on again, off again boyfriend. And so now they're saying she's not really going to be a part of it, but in some ways she will be. But it was very it was an odd statement. So is she a friend of? Is she on the show or what? But at this point in the game, I think they've got to make it work. But then again, we saw Lisa Vanderpump quit, so I don't get it.
Well, listen, just because you skip one party doesn't mean you're leaving the show. That just means she didn't go to that party. Producers strongly suggest what they would like you to attend, but if you don't want to go, they can't make you go. So clearly Tinsley had a preference to be with Scott that evening, and off she went.
Well, good for her. I mean, I don't really see the big deal if she's in it, out of it, part-time, full-time. I mean, she's had the same storyline since she came on. So, I mean, she's not must-see TV for me. So I'm not really too worried about the future of Tinsley on New York.
Yeah, I feel like Tinsley should just be a friend of. She doesn't have that much going on. But she's good eye candy, and she sort of, adds a little flavor to the mix. So I don't dislike her, but I don't think she's a strong full-time candidate.
Well, it's like I say with a lot of these shows, she brings down the median age on the canvas, and they're always worried about appealing to these younger viewers when if they would only pay attention. I mean, people love to hate Ramona, and she's the oldest of all of them, I believe.
I think you are 100% correct.
Yeah. But let's talk about some casting. New York, Page Six has put together some different recommendations here. They listed, the article is titled 9 New York Women of Color Who Should Join Real Housewives of New York. Now, I'm not going to go through all 9 because some of them I think are just too distant. But a few that have stuck out to me, and then I want to get your thoughts. First, Lil' Kim, mentioned earlier in the podcast. Love her. She's a Brooklyn native. I don't see it happening. I don't see it as a match. I think she lives in New Jersey. Her home's been in and out of foreclosure. But I just like that Lil' Kim made the list.
Listen, I think Lil' Kim would be great on Jersey, but not for the Manhattan Housewives.
No, I can't imagine her going to lunch with Sonia Morgan on the Upper East Side.
No.
She's not going to go to the Berkshires and celebrate Halloween with Dorinda. I can't see that happening.
Yeah, but I can totally see her throwing down with Teresa. I think that would be amazing.
That would be, because she's they don't call her little they call her little for a reason. I mean, she's small, but she is so scrappy. I love her. I would love to see it. And you know what? We all know Kim needs the money. I mean, she's been taking every gig she can get, and I say that with respect. But I love her. But I mean, she'll take the job. But I've said the same thing about Dina Lohan. She's not a woman of color, but she's another one who will take the check. I don't know why they don't at least take a meeting. At least sit down with her. She'd be perfect. She'd be like, let's just put it this way. Dina Lohan would be Kim Richards status, if you ask me.
I think that would be a very interesting addition to the cast.
Yeah. I think we get shades of Kim Richards and Dina.
If they get Dina, then you're getting Lindsay because she'd have to make an appearance.
She'd have to make at least one. Another person on this list who I was not familiar with, Grace Hightower. She's Robert De Niro's ex-wife, and she's a big-time New York socialite. And I think she's probably a little more age-appropriate, where she would match with, some of the more OGs on the canvas. I think that would be smart. I like the idea of bringing out a New York socialite that's been in the scene for a while.
I do too, but can I tell you who is also on that list that I think would be amazing? And that is Kimora Lee Simmons.
Perfect. Perfect casting.
Young, beautiful, rich, has a mouth on her. I think she would be perfect for that show.
When I saw that, I said, there's your Bethany replacement, because she's selling that straight up. She's got a business background. She's a young mom. There you go. Bravo. I mean, like, yeah, why not? She'd be perfect for that show.
Every box. And they probably can't afford her. That's probably the up there. But
I was going to say, because she'd probably do it, right? But yeah, they probably can't afford. There's going to be some reason why she's not on there.
Well, I mean, she's done reality TV before, so I don't know. You know, who knows? Maybe she doesn't want the ensemble cast.
Mm-hmm. I like her. I think she'd be good. I wonder kind of what happened to her recently, because I haven't seen her on my TV. But you know, again, a big New York name. I think that's the smartest name on this list.
Well, you know, she does pop up periodically on the Kardashians. So occasionally she'll pop up at a party or on a Skype call or, you know, something.
Well, that's why I'm not familiar, because I've never watched that. Believe it or not, I've never watched that show.
You're missing out, Grant. Well, something that you do care about is Real Housewives of Dallas. So how about we talk about that?
Let's do it. Let's get right into it, because I really am curious. I'm all caught up. And I'm laughing because I see you popping in and out of all of these shots. And I want you to describe yourself to the listener, so that way they can keep an eye open for Cynthia spotting on Dallas.
Well, I call them my Where's Waldo moments.
Yeah.
So I used to have this romanticized version of what it would be like to be a housewife and how fabulous it would be. And so, I mean, I'm not going to lie. And when they cast Real Housewives of Dallas, and in season 1, I was sort of like, wow, you know, maybe that's something I would want to do someday. Well, 4 seasons in, let me just tell you, no. Now that I know way too much about it, it is not for me. I will never be on that show, but I do love having my little Where's Waldo moments. It's super fun to just be a fly on the wall and just watch the drama ensue all around you.
So you're LeeAnne's, like, how can we describe you? Like, redhead there. You know, you're toasting with her, you're supporting her. I mean, what are some places that we've seen you, so people can kind of gauge?
Yeah, so I'm the redhead that you see with LeeAnne quite often. We've been best friends for 10 years, which is why I am naturally at a lot of the events that they end up filming. And LeeAnne and I met really just on the sort of society charity luncheon circuit that we do here, this dance we do here in this town. And so we've been friends, like I said, for over a decade. And so when she got cast on the show, I have been blogging about reality TV in Dallas for a long time, way before Housewives. So I was already very plugged into that whole entertainment, Hollywood genre, just in covering it on my blog. And so, it was a dream come true for me to kind of have an inside track on the Housewives. So you'll see me, sitting at a table at the bar, walking through with a drink. I'm never mic'd and talking, which is fine with me. I just sort of like having my little sightings. I'm good with that.
So do they come to you and do they want to mic you, or is that something that you say no thanks, or do you,
sometimes they do, but honestly, I don't. It's just not what I want to do. Like, I don't need to be all up in the middle of it. It doesn't suit my personality. I'm not confrontational at all. I'm the first one to apologize, even when I don't think I was wrong, because I don't want you to be mad at me. Like, I would be a horrible housewife. But it's my guilty pleasure. Like, I'm obsessed with these shows. I love watching them. But I will tell you, as a fan of the Housewives franchise, it's so different having one in your hometown when you know the women, and and when you attend these parties, because what I really never realized is, we would film a 6-hour dinner party, and on the show you see 6 minutes. So it is so edited down that when you see it played out and everything's sort of out of context and not the timeline that it really happened, you really start to understand how, what you're watching is real life and all true, but not in really real time.
Right. The heavy editing.
heavy editing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that for me, like, kills a lot of it, because I just feel like it's like, like you said, it's not scripted, it's not fake, but it's also, spun a certain way and shown a certain way, and that it's hard, especially to defend oneself, when everything is presented in a certain angle on reality TV. I mean, people are like, well, you said it. That's what I saw on my TV. But people do have to realize there's a lot that goes into what's shown. Yeah.
Listen, that's what I tell LeeAnne all the time. Honey, they can only work with what you give them. And she gives them a lot, which is why she's so fantastic on that show.
Yeah. Well, that's how we know one another, through LeeAnne, because LeeAnne's come here for different events. And where did we meet? We met out at an event, right, with LeeAnne. And then we were recently at the Abbey.
Bravo brought her out a couple years ago to do press for, I think it was season 2. And I came out with her on that press tour, and that's where we met. We all had dinner at Sir, I think.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we did, didn't we? Don't tell anybody.
We all had a teeny together. And...
Yeah. No, no seriousness, we sat across from each other and we just really hit it off. And then you and Heidi Dillon were out here earlier this year, and we got together in Santa Monica, and then I saw you again in September. And, it was high time we had you on the podcast.
Well, thank you. I love being here.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about these events. So you're there basically you had a good gig, because you're there to enjoy the champagne, you're there to enjoy the party, and you don't have to do any of the work.
Honey, I get all the perks and none of the pressure. It's fantastic.
I'm jealous. I love that. Good for you.
I always joke that LeeAnne and I's joke is that I just wind her. She's like those little wind up toys, right? So I just wind her up and then kind of push her out there. And then I just sort of sit back with my glass of champagne and amused as she does her dance around the room. She's a firecracker, and that's part of why I love her.
Now, does she ever come to you after like rap or these scenes or whatever, and did you help her kind of come down to earth a little bit? I mean, are you a sounding board for her, a support?
Oh, of course. I mean, we're very much yin and yang. And so I'm sort of the grounded, calm one. And obviously she's the, emotional, dramatic one. I mean, she's an actress. And, so yeah, I think that's part of the appeal, is she's everything I'm not, and vice versa.
Totally balance each other out. It's funny to watch. Yeah, it really is.
So this season was super fun because obviously she got married. We're all watching it play out. And so there were lots of showers and parties and festivities that went along with the wedding that we had a lot of fun filming. And I'm so happy that Bravo has put it on the air so that everybody else can see what a really magical event that it was. And her wedding, which they sort of started it this week. Next week, you'll see the actual wedding and reception, which was sort of the culmination of everything that's been happening. And it was a spectacular affair. We had so much fun.
It looks like it. When was this shot? When was this wedding? When did all this happen?
The wedding was this past April.
Okay, I thought so, because I know there's one Easter beforehand and all that. So I was trying to gauge on what time of year this was happening. So spring of this year. Interesting.
So all the showers, the couple shower and the lingerie shower that you've seen, those were filmed like February, March. Then the wedding was April.
Mm-hmm. And you were at all those events, like the 4 or 5 events that she's had.
Well, of course, I'm her best friend.
Yeah, right.
Off the show.
Because I don't know, were you there at the dress fitting? I didn't see you there. I could have been wrong.
I was not there. Unfortunately, I do have a real life job. And so I can't just, say, hey, I'm taking the day off work to go film a dress fitting.
I get that. I'm a big advocate of anyone with a job.
And at that point, we had already filmed so many other parties that I was like, I'm good.
You're good. No, really, though. I mean, you did enough. Yeah, I agree. So I'm anxious to see this. The episode that aired this week at the time of recording this podcast, I felt gutted for LeeAnne watching her with her mother not there. I mean, imagine, though, really, not having your own mother show up on time or even to visit with you before walking down the aisle. I just felt horrible for her. I hope it works out, but I mean, that's like unforgivable, even if she shows up.
Well, they have had an estranged relationship for a long time. And so it's not, I think most people, you're putting yourself in that scenario and you're thinking, gosh, if that was my wedding and my mother was late, because most people are very close to their mothers and you can't imagine your mother doing that to you. Like, of course she would be back there helping you get dressed, but that's not the relationship that they have. So frankly, LeeAnne, we were back there getting her dressed, her makeup, like having a great time. Like, we honestly didn't even think about it until, you know, we got ready to sort of start the ceremony. And then it was sort of like, okay, is all my family here? Are we ready to go? And it was like, oh, your mom's late, you know, and LeeAnne was sort of like, well, that figures. I mean, no surprise there. So it wasn't anything she was devastated about. It was just more like, well, that's par for the course.
Interesting, because it came across different for me. I mean, you know, again, we're dealing with editing, right? And music, and, you know, it looks like she's there dabbing her eyes, sad that her mother is missing in action.
That was probably her crying because she was so emotional that she was about to marry the man of her dreams, and they're overlaying it with audio of somebody saying your mother is late. So, you know.
There you go. There's an example right there of what it's all about, you know. That's a good example. Yeah, I mean, I just think, like, look, whatever the relationship is, I mean, if you're going to be on time for one thing in your life, just, you know, don't walk down the aisle when the bride is walking down the aisle because you're late. And that's etiquette rule number one at a wedding. I mean, come on.
Well, listen, and to be perfectly honest, her mother was late, but she was there. Actually, the person who made the whole ceremony run late was LeeAnne, because she was taking too much time trying to get into her dress. But listen, I've been at many weddings where the bride was 20, 30 minutes late because of all of that, you know, hoo-ha. So
it happens, yeah.
It happens. It is not uncommon, but it was a beautiful, beautiful ceremony, and she looked like a queen.
Well, I'll say, as a viewer, I could have enjoyed the wedding just as much without the fabricated, amplified, you know, drama. I would have enjoyed it and been happy for LeeAnne regardless. It's been a long time coming for her. I don't need all these theatrics. So just putting that out there, you know, I mean, let's just I don't like when things are like kind of mixed up. Like, this is her moment. I get the other scenes, you know, but this is her thing. Just let it live as it was, in my opinion.
You know, unfortunately, none of this is within her control. I'm sure she wishes it was that way too, that they could have just let her have like one nice moment without
having. That's what I'm saying. Like, the one nice moment that's just straight up, you know?
But you know what? Again, this is the show you signed on for. So how surprised can we be?
Yeah, that's true. Well,
but stay tuned, because there is lots more to come. And it's, you know, there's on top of LeeAnne's wedding, we've got their cast trip to Thailand coming up. And so there is lots more to come with Dallas. I hope everybody will tune in and watch these ladies. They're all a fantastic group. I love all of them individually. And I wish Dallas would get the credit that it's due.
I've been saying that from season 1. I do agree with you. And that's why I'm like such a proponent of it, because I enjoy the show. You know, I enjoy it, and I see that, you know, it's not held to the same regard as the others, which I don't understand. If they're franchise shows and they're ensemble shows, I don't understand why there's not more of an equilibrium there. But you know how it goes, so
we just have to hope for the best.
We do. And I'm going to keep watching. I encourage you guys to keep watching as well. And where can listeners, if they're interested, read more of the blog, to get some Dallas insight? Where can people go?
Well, you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at OhSoCynthia, OHSO Cynthia, for all kinds of celebrity gossip and what's happening around Dallas. I write about what gives the city its flavor, all the cool people, places, and things that make Dallas so unique and larger than life. And that includes our Housewives.
Well, I'm really grateful to have you on the show. I mean, I think I connected with you on Twitter. Season 1, I could tell that you were a mover and shaker down there in Dallas. And I was like, oh, she'd make for a good guest. Little did I know that we would actually meet multiple times in person. And I just think you're the sweetest and kindest. And thank you for doing the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure, and hopefully I will see you on my next trip to LA.
Sounds good. I'll likely be here. All right. My thanks to Cynthia, and thank you for listening. I love you for that. Please continue to support the podcast. You can with FabFitFun, code GrantsRants. And as always, we'll be back with more rants. Thanks, Cynthia.
Thank you.
This has been Grant's Rants. Support the Rants on Patreon at patreon.com/Grant's Rants. Follow Grant on Twitter and Instagram at It's Grant's Rants. Cover art created by Howie Ronay. Voiceover by Aw Yeah! Original theme music by Alexander Arntzen. The Grant Michael Collection.